It's happening. And there's no longer any doubt. The betrayal is now out in the open. Keir Starmer isn't just panicking. He's lost control. In a move that shook Westminster and stunned Brussels, Nigel Farage has made a dramatic return to frontline politics.
Mr. Speaker, to date so far this year, 10,000 young, undocumented males have illegally crossed the English Channel into our country, a 40% increase on this time last year, many coming from cultures that are somewhat alien to ours. They are being housed at a cost of many billions of pounds a year in hotels and increasingly in private rented homes. The effect on communities is one of a sense of deep unfairness, actually bordering on resentment. In Runcorn alone, there are 750 of these young men. Just in one. Is it not time to admit that Smash the Gangs was nothing more than an election slogan and not a policy? And isn't it time to declare a national emergency and to act accordingly?
Just days before a major EU summit in London, he derailed a secret deal Starmer was preparing with the EU. But it didn't stop there. Farage secured a private audience with the King. This is no longer just politics. This is a national chess match played behind velvet curtains. While Starmer polished his image for a cosy sit-down with Ursula von der Leyen and executives of the EU, the country began waking up to the truth. To the quiet death of Brexit, to the slap in the face of British sovereignty. Farage's return has exposed a hidden agenda. Starmer edged Britain back into the European Union with a sweeping new deal, the first major EU agreement since Brexit. The backlash has begun. The public is angry. What's unfolding now isn't diplomacy. It's a power struggle for the soul of the nation. And Farage just flipped the board.
I will not be lectured to by Sir Keir Starmer. Starmer, who chose to weigh in against me over the weekend. This is the same Starmer that backed Corbyn, a man that wanted us to leave NATO. So no thank you. This the same Starmer that wants to reopen the inquiries that go back 50 years against British soldiers in Northern Ireland. And this the Starmer, along with David Lammy, who wants us to join the European Defence Union. He wants us to get closer with the European Union in terms of our military strategy, which would be a disaster as far as America and NATO are concerned. So I'll take no lectures from any of them.
According to Farage, Starmer claims the summit is about security and defence. But a closer look beneath the surface and you'll uncover a deliberate plan to pull Britain back into Brussels' orbit. One key element of Starmer's proposed deal, giving EU judges the power to overturn British court rulings. Sound familiar? That's right. The European Court of Justice is making a return, and this time with Starmer's blessing. He calls it realism, but many call it exactly what it is: betrayal. And it doesn't stop there. Another major flashpoint is the youth mobility scheme, seen by critics as a backdoor to free movement. It would allow young people from the EU to live, work and study in the UK without restrictions.
It's Christopher Hope, our political editor. Christopher, fantastic. What's going on then?
Patrick, hiya. Welcome to Berlin. The Brandenburg Gate is behind me. Sir Keir Starmer is staying here. He's our Prime Minister. He meets with Olaf Scholz tomorrow. The idea here is to 6 months to work out a deal, a treaty with Germany, covering all sorts of areas to boost trade, deepen defence, security, increase action on illegal migration and the like. He wants this to be a model of other deals with other EU countries as we go forward under this Labour government. The PM thinks privately that he's not reversing Brexit, that other treaties are done all the time. We've been trading with our friends and neighbours on the continent for hundreds of years, and here's a case of strengthening those bonds. But there's no question that tomorrow morning I think a lot of maybe Tory Brexiteers will be spitting out their cornflakes and dropping the marmalade reading those headlines you read out just there, because there will be concern this is going to tie us closer and closer to the European Union, to make some wonder, well, what's the point of Brexit after all?
Well, no, indeed. And Christopher, just staying with you, I mean, some of the detail that we've been, I mean, it's quite limited at the moment, I suppose. But, you know, we'll, as you've said, have a lot of Brexiteers spitting out their cornflakes and being very, very worried about it, you know, and it's talking about a recalibration of our relationship with the European Union. And it covers, it seemingly, you know, quite a lot of ground. So it says he wants to turn a corner.
Yes,
fine. Go on, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the news broke 4 minutes ago, Patrick. I mean, the detail there is detailed. It says here there'll be increased collaboration on market access, critical science, innovation and tech, clean energy,
Didn't millions of
trade
Britons vote
across
to end this in 2016? Didn't we say no to open borders? Starr doesn't think so. In a recent Guardian interview, he brushed it off as pragmatism. But what it really shows may be how he's willing to sacrifice British sovereignty to please Brussels. Sovereignty gone. Starmer is selling Britain off piece by piece, but just as he was preparing to celebrate, Nigel Farage stepped in and tore it all apart. Following Reform UK's surge in the local elections, Farage returned as the authentic voice of the people. No spin, no compromise, just blunt truth. The public does not want to return to the EU. And when the media tried to silence him, Farage moved fast, meeting powerful allies, gaining momentum, and then shockingly holding a secret audience with the king.
So the EU reset, I guess it really began last night. Keir Starmer heads off to Brussels for dinner with the other European leaders. The choice of location was fascinating. Palais d'Egmont, which is where they never have dinners there. They nearly always have them in the council building. Why did they choose that building? Well, there was symbolism here, because that is where Edward Heath went to sign the accession treaty in 1972. I think that was a bit of a game and an attempt to ever so slightly humiliate the British Prime Minister. We got a raft of conclusions, one of which was that we're going to deepen industrial collaboration. We're clearly going to get closer to EU rules. We may even allow the ECJ some oversight. But a lot of what was discussed last night will become clearer at a summit that's going to happen in this country in the middle of May. I guess that Sir Keir really is a rejoiner at heart, and I fear that we're going to sort of head a little bit closer towards that Brexit in name only. As long as he doesn't get too close, because if he does, it'll reduce our ability to be flexible with America.
While Starmer courted Brussels, Farage was speaking with the royal family. Palace sources say there's deep concern about losing control over immigration and judicial sovereignty. Though classified, insiders suggest this very meeting forced the government to pause. And what was Starmer's reaction? So far, it has been chaos behind closed doors. In a string of tense private meetings, multiple sources described panic at the highest levels. The silent plan to drag Britain back into Brussels' orbit. It's crumbling, and Farage may have just triggered the collapse. The Prime Minister reportedly erupted in fury, shouting, slamming papers, demanding answers and pacing back and forth. He asked, how did Farage get so close to the palace? One aide described him as spiralling, anxious, erratic, acting under siege. And perhaps rightly so, because Farage didn't just block a deal, he exposed the entire rotten machine behind it. Now panic has spread to EU diplomats. France wants expanded fishing rights in British waters. Germany demands Britain fund EU defence projects. And Brussels insists the UK adopt EU food standards, surrendering control over farming, exports, and even retail policy. This isn't a negotiation, it's capitulation. And the architect? Keir Starmer. Ever since he became Prime Minister, he has been undermining Britain behind closed doors. He's selling out British sovereignty bit by bit and hoping the public won't notice. But now the truth is breaking through. Keir Starmer has become a man so desperate for Brussels' approval that he's now willing to surrender British sovereignty just for a nod of recognition from Ursula von der Leyen. Most shockingly, he's using the war in Ukraine as political cover for his ambitions. Starmer's camp insists that deeper defence cooperation with the EU is essential to counter Russian threats. But critics argue this is nothing more than a smokescreen, masking his true goal, pulling Britain closer to the EU, piece by piece, deal by deal. In other notable news, Luke Shenton has made history for Reform UK by securing victory in one of Labour's long-standing strongholds, with a resounding win in Birch's Head and Northwood Stoke-on-Trent. He became the first Reform UK candidate to win a seat on the City Council. This is a significant milestone for a party that had until now only made gains at the district level. Shenton received 1,226 votes, a commanding lead over his rivals, and more than double the results seen in the recent by-election, triggered by the resignation of Labour's Steve Blakemore. Blakemore had stepped down after taking a post at Unitas, the housing repairs company, brought back under council control in April. The vacant seat presented a golden opportunity for Reform UK to break into what had long been considered Labour territory. Labour fielded Maggie Bradley, who managed just 449 votes, a disappointing result that reflects a growing sense of disillusionment among voters, particularly those struggling with the cost of living and unhappy with the council's performance. Losing this seat was more than a blow. It was a wake-up call for Labour, who now hold just 28 out of 44 seats on Stoke-on-Trent City Council. Independent candidate Jean Bowers received 346 votes, highlighting the continued appetite for alternatives outside the traditional party system in local elections. In contrast, Kawar Ali of the Conservative Party secured just 73 votes, a stark indicator of the Tories' waning influence locally amid broader national challenges. In his post-victory remarks, Luke Shenton called the result a landmark moment and the beginning of bigger wins for Reform UK in Stoke. He expressed confidence that if the party maintains its momentum, it could take control of the entire council in the next election. According to Shenton, both Labour and the Conservatives have lost the public's trust, and Reform UK is emerging as a serious alternative. He pledged to review the council's budget and slash wasteful spending, noting that poor financial management was the issue most frequently raised by residents during his campaign. His promises of financial transparency and a renewed focus on core local services struck a chord with a growing number of voters disillusioned by the hollow pledges of the major parties. On Labour's side, council leader Jane Ashworth acknowledged the result as a clear signal of widespread voter frustration, both with local governance and national politics. She also pointed to over a decade of austerity measures since 2010, which she said had left communities feeling neglected and let down. While the current Labour government has begun allocating more funding compared to previous administrations, Ashworth conceded that it remains insufficient to reverse the damage caused by years of cuts. However, the apparent dislike for Labour goes beyond austerity. The party has taken steps that have turned voters away from it, voters who previously saw the party as a voice for the people. Decisions such as winter fuel payment cuts, higher taxes, and Starmer's determination to cozy up to the European Union and undermine all the gains of Brexit have triggered voters against Labour. Meanwhile, Reform UK's rising presence in local councils is drawing increased attention, especially as the party gains pace under the leadership of Nigel Farage. His role has been instrumental in transforming Reform UK from a fringe movement into a growing national force.
Well, no, indeed. And Christopher, just staying with you, I mean, some of the detail that we've been, I mean, it is quite limited at the moment, I suppose. But, we'll, as you've said, have a lot of Brexiteers spitting out their cornflakes and being very, very worried about it, and it's talking about a recalibration of our relationship with the European Union. And it covers, seemingly, quite a lot of ground. So it says he wants to turn a corner. Fine. Go on, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the news broke 4 minutes ago, Patrick. I mean, the detail there is detailed. It says here there'll be increased collaboration on market access, critical science, innovation and tech, clean energy, trade across the North Sea, supply chain resilience, energy security and green transition, education, biodiversity and the environment. That is a full waterfront of most key areas you may want to talk about with another country. So Keir Starmer is here. He knows Olaf Scholz very well. I was there when they met on the last time on the margins of the NATO summit in Washington DC. A very warm embrace. We'll see them meet later on tomorrow. Earlier, Sir Keir Starmer was behind me at the Brandenburg Gate, having having a walkabout. I mean, he's clearly a person who we can do business with, and he clearly sees this deal with Germany as one to set the benchmark for other similar deals that I fully expect the UK to try and sign as we go forward through this 5-year period. What that means for Brexit, it will shake up the whole idea of what Brexit is for us as we go forward.
Yeah, exactly, and it's on that. Now, Christopher, at some point, I mean, I suppose it doesn't really matter, does it now? Because there's a massive Labour majority, but at some point, will this have to be voted on in Parliament?
The victory in Stoke stands as proof that the message of political accountability and genuine reform is resonating with the public. Farage has long championed the overhaul of both local and central government operations, and this result serves to reinforce that agenda. With momentum now building at both the local and city levels, Reform UK's path forward is looking increasingly solid and a worthy alternative to the current political establishment. Now, it remains to be seen how Labour will react to this latest setback in Stoke, which was one of the party's biggest strongholds. Will the party finally wake up to the reality that voters have become disillusioned and are seeking alternatives? Or will they continue with the same rhetorics they have been using since they came into power at the national level? If you enjoyed this political firestorm, like the video and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating political content.